Hello friends, thank you so much for clicking on this video. I really hope that you'll consider subscribing to my channel if you're enjoying the instruction that I'm giving you. Welcome to Practice Hack Series episode 4, and as promised, today we're going to be talking all about scales. So, you've probably heard before that it's important to practice your scales, but you might not be sure why. In short, I'll try to be short about it anyway. Scales can help you in literally every aspect of your playing. If you're a beginner, scales can help you develop your intonation and your tone. I use scales to teach my students how to shift. Scales can be used to practice vibrato. Scales can be used to practice any different bow stroke that you might be learning or wanting to improve. Scales can also help you develop a mental map of the fingerboard. Scales can help you learn how to play faster. When you become really comfortable with your scales, you don't have to do too much thinking, right, to play all of the correct notes. So that way you can really focus in on one aspect that you're trying to improve. So say I was working on my vibrato. I could take a nice, slow, easy G major scale and I could try to have constant vibrato. I could try to speed up my vibrato. I could try to vary my vibrato. And I could really be focusing in on the vibrato. That's not always possible when you're playing a piece, right? There's more things to think about. You have to think about playing the right notes. You have to think about what you're doing with your bow, everything like that. So scales are really fundamental in your progress as a musician. So you might be saying, okay, I get it, scales are important, but how the heck do I practice then? I got you. So the way you practice scales is going to be different depending on your level, of course. So I'll be giving some specific examples that will work for anyone at any level, and then I'll be giving more level-specific ideas for how to practice your scales. So, first general tip for practicing scales, you need to rotate through your scales. Unless you're working with your teacher on one specific scale. I do this a lot when I have beginning students that were just learning scales. We'll stay on a scale for maybe a few weeks at a time until we really get it down. That's totally fine, but if you're not working with a teacher or you already know all of your scales, you need to rotate through them. You don't need to be practicing G major for like a month. I practice a different scale every week. So I start with G major, then I go to G minor, then A flat major, A flat minor, and I keep going all the way up. It takes about half a year to get through all the scales, but we get there, so that's all that matters, right? Next, practice your scales slowly. Pick a metronome marking that is doable for you. I suggest my students start around 50 and start out with half notes, so 2 clicks per bow, and play very slowly, focusing on your tone and your intonation. It's a very good idea to practice with a drone as well. And if you're not familiar with what a drone is, say I was playing G major scale. I would make my tuner play out a G, and then I would tune all of those notes to the G. So I'm going to demonstrate because I feel like there's a bit of confusion on what a drone actually is. Make my tuner play out a G. So I'm listening to how every note sounds with that drone. Really good tool for intonation. So practicing slowly with the metronome and practicing with the drone, I think, can be done at any level. For more beginners, here's how I have my students practice their scales. We start with the metronome. Our goal tempo is 60, but we can start out however slow we need to make the student feel comfortable, make sure they're in tune, good tone, everything like that. We start out with half notes, so 2 clicks per bow. and then we go to 2 notes slurred, 1 click per bow. So think quarter notes. And then we go to 4 notes slurred, so 2 clicks per note, so think 8th notes. This is helping them not only with their tone, but it's also helping them with slurs, which are a bit difficult to get at the very beginning, and it's helping them play faster. So I'll demonstrate. So I'll put my metronome on at 60. Here's step 1. Here's step 2. And here's step 3. So as you can see, each one gets a little bit faster. After we get a few basic scales down just in first position, G major, A major, B flat major, then I usually go into some shifting with G major, do D major in 3rd position, and then go all the way up to 3 octave scales. If you're more advanced, I'll give you my exact scale routine. So what I do is I start out just like I mentioned, very slowly with the metronome. I first start out with the drone, and then I take the drone off and do the same thing again. After that, I practice in spiccato because that's something that I personally want to work on. So say you're having trouble with, I don't know, staccato or martelé, you could practice that within your scale. Then I practice my scale with constant vibrato, working on not stopping my vibrato between the notes. Then I practice the acceleration exercise. This is kind of like the end goal for the scales, to be able to play the acceleration exercise. And if you're not familiar with what the acceleration exercise is, basically you are getting faster every time you put the scale. I start with triplets, so 3 notes per bow. Then I go to 8th notes, 4 notes per bow, and then 6 notes per bow, and then 8 notes per bow, and then 12 notes per bow, and then 16 notes per bow, and then all the way up and down in, all the way up in 1 bow, and then all the way down in 1 bow, so 24 notes per bow. Start slowly with this. You don't have to do all of it all at once, especially if you've never learned it. Maybe just try starting with triplets and 8 notes, and then you can add the 6 notes per bow. So just be very gradual when you're learning this. I believe the whole acceleration exercise is laid out in the beginning of the Carl Flesch scale system books. I'll talk a little bit about scale books. So at the beginning, I don't use any scale books. I kind of just teach the scales in the lesson. When we get to 3 octave scales, that's when I do incorporate the scale book. I start out with the Barber scales for advanced violinists. It's kind of like a mini version of the Carl Flesch system. She has the 3 octave scales, she has the arpeggio sequence, she has octaves, she has thirds, everything like that. And then the end goal, of course, is the Carl Flesch. So I hope this conveyed to you how important scales are and how to practice them. Again, these should be included in your warm-up routine, and the amount of time that you spend on them really depends on the just general amount of time that you're going to spend practicing that day. Remember, your warm-up routine should be about 10 to 20% of your whole practice time. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any questions at all about scales or warm-ups, drop them in the comments below, and I will see you guys next week.